faithfully sharing value, exploring great books from around the world. Hello, this is Sally's Book Talk. Today we're diving into the book What a Plant Knows. Plants are vital members of Earth, often overlooked. We care about animals' feelings, but rarely about plants' emotions. So, do plants see like animals? Can you hear me? Do they have feelings? Can they communicate with each other? Today's book, What a Plant Knows, answers these questions. This book is published by Scientific American, the world's top popular science magazine, and was named one of Amazon's top 10 science books in 2012. Its author, Daniel Shamovitz, is a genetics PhD. Before him, his family had already produced 6 medical doctors. Daniel wanted to be different from his family, so he went into plant research. Daniel was studying how plants use light to regulate growth, but he discovered a set of genes that help plants sense light levels in their environment. Coincidentally, a similar set of genes is found in human DNA, also regulating responses to light. This research sparked Daniel's interest in the similarities between plant and human senses. That's how this book came about. So, next, let's follow the book's outline to explore what senses plants share with humans. First, let's see if plants actually have vision. Many scientists have researched this, and we must mention Charles Darwin, yes, the evolution guy. After graduating from Cambridge University, Darwin joined a scientific expedition that sailed around the world. To keep birds on the ship, he planted a type of grass called canary grass in the cabin, a 19th century ship cabin. You can imagine crude facilities, a dim interior with light only coming through the windows. Then Darwin noticed the canary grass seedlings always grew toward the light, a plant trait called phototropism. Darwin and his son Francis wanted to know how light affects plant growth, so they designed a simple experiment. They prepared 5 seedlings and placed them in total darkness to grow for a few days first. Then they lit a small kerosene lamp near the seedlings. They treated the 5 seedlings differently. Some grew naturally, some were given a shade hat, some a transparent hat, and others had their heads exposed but wore a little coat. They found that any seedling that could sense light bent towards it. The Darwins confirmed that phototropism results from light hitting the plant's shoot tip. Think about it. When human eyes see light, the brain receives the stimulus. After processing the information, we react to it. Plants are the same. After the shoot tip sees light, it sends a signal to the plant's middle, causing it to grow towards the light. So plants can indeed see light. After that, scientists discovered that some plants bloom only in autumn and winter when days are short and nights are long. They're short day plants. For example, chrysanthemums. Other plants are the opposite, blooming in spring and summer when days are long and nights are short. They're long day plants, like rapeseed flowers and balsams. This phenomenon is called photoperiodism. Or why does photoperiodism occur? Are plants calculating the duration of light? Botanists found that light can affect flowering. For instance, a short day plant ready to bloom in winter won't flower if people briefly turn on the light in the middle of the night and then turn it off. And long day plants are the opposite. In winter, when days are short, even a few minutes of light in the late night can make them bloom. Scientists explain that plants don't calculate the length of day, but the length of continuous darkness. This discovery is crucial for agriculture. In the US, it's popular to give chrysanthemums on Mother's Day, which is in spring, but chrysanthemums are short day plants. They bloom in autumn and winter. So, when chrysanthemums are about to bloom, farmers can light a lamp for a few minutes at midnight, tricking them into thinking the night is short and autumn hasn't arrived, thus delaying blooming. But can any color of light affect flowering? Scientists found that no matter what plant they tested, flashes of blue, green, etc. didn't affect flowering time. The red flashes can. Only red light makes plants think it's daytime. Thus, we can further confirm that plants can distinguish colors. More interestingly, in the early 1950s, scientists discovered far red light, which has the exact opposite effect of red light. This far red light often appears at sunset, the last light plants in nature see before darkness. The appearance of far red light signals the arrival of night, while the return of red light means dawn. Plants in nature have always regulated their growth following this pattern. I know you might think plants having vision is quite miraculous, but hold on, because plants having a sense of smell is even more fascinating. Let's talk about plants' sense of smell. First, a life hack. If you have unripe fruit, put a ripe one like a banana or apple in the bag with them, and the green fruit will ripen quickly. This happens because ripe fruit releases ethylene, which ripens fruit. Have you ever wondered how plants sense ethylene gas? The book's answer is through plants' sense of smell. In 1983, scientists claimed trees could warn each other about pest infestations. At the time, global media promoted the idea that trees could talk, gaining public acceptance. But how could trees possibly speak? Later, scientists verified that leaves attacked by bacteria release methyl salicylate gas, the volatile form of salicylic acid. When infested by insects, they release methyl jasmonate gas. Both uninfected leaves on the same tree and nearby trees smell these and boost their resistance. So plants have a cute smell and even scent preferences. There's a plant called dodder that lacks leaves, so it can't photosynthesize, but it can parasitize neighboring plants to steal nutrients. Amazingly, when given a choice between wheat and tomato plants, dodder unwaveringly grows toward tomatoes. From this, we can infer that dodder prefers the taste of tomatoes and can use its sense of smell to locate its favorite food. Source plants can see light and smell scents. So can they feel touch? To see if plants react to touch, the classic example is the Venus flytrap. The biggest difference between Venus flytraps and other plants is they don't just rely on photosynthesis. They also catch insects or small animals to get animal protein for nutrition. The edges of Venus flytrap leaves have bristles, like long eyelashes. Normally, the leaves are open with a few large black hairs on the inside. Once the black hairs are touched by prey, it snaps shut incredibly fast, with crossed bristles forming a cage that traps the prey. Interestingly, the prey must touch at least 2 hairs within about 20 seconds for the flytrap to close. This is actually the flytrap's way of confirming if the prey on the leaf is the right size to eat. Therefore, its trigger is both sensitive and picky. In fact, the sense of touch is crucial for plant survival. Because plants can't move easily after rooting, most are exposed to the elements, meaning they face multiple threats. Wind, rain, snow, or other organisms touch plants. Plants can't escape or improve their environment, so they sense surroundings and adjust growth, rhythm, and metabolism to adapt. For example, Arabidopsis thaliana, a plant in the mustard family, is like the lab mouse of the plant world. If touched multiple times daily, it grows shorter and stockier than untouched ones and delays flowering. This is its environmental adaptation. After discussing plants' sense of touch, let's now talk about their sense of hearing. In some films and shows, you see scenes where everything revives to beautiful music, as if plants thrive under its influence. In reality, many people believe music affects plant growth, including Darwin. Besides his love for biology, Darwin was also an avid bassoon enthusiast. So he tried to combine these two passions. He wanted to test if bassoon music could affect plant growth. So he personally played bassoon for a mimosa plant. But the mimosa remained unresponsive. Its leaves didn't close. Darwin himself considered this a foolish experiment. After that, few studied plant hearing. In 2000, scientists obtained the complete genome sequence of Arabidopsis thaliana. They found many genes related to human disabilities, including hearing defects, so we can essentially consider plants deaf. Daniel also analyzes in the book that humans and other animals gained evolutionary advantages from hearing. We often rely on hearing to detect potential dangers, like avoiding moving vehicles. But plants are fixed. They can't flee or hide. Therefore, hearing is meaningless for plants. Actually, for humans, hearing relies on the ear, but ears do more than just hear. Near our inner ear is a complex structure containing sensory hairs and otoliths that help us sense gravity and distinguish up from down. This is actually humanity's true sixth sense, called proprioception. Do earless plants have proprioception like humans? So next we'll discuss plants' proprioception. Proprioception is amazing. It lets us sense gravity, distinguish up, down, and walk normally. A drunk person stumbles because their proprioception is impaired. Proprioception also lets us know our body parts' positions, whether still or moving. For example, your hand can instantly find an itch on your back. Dancers especially know exactly how high to raise arms or how far to extend legs. Parents are the same. Let's see how they sense gravity. In 1758, a French botanist grew a seedling upside down and found it bent to still grow skyward. Not only that, roots in soil also changed direction, persistently growing downward. 50 years later, a Royal Society member named Knight conducted a similar experiment. He planted seedlings on a water wheel and spun it rapidly. After a day's rotation, the wheel created centrifugal force like a washing machine. He discovered roots always grew toward the centrifugal force, while stems grew opposite. This proved plant roots and stems respond not just to natural gravity, but also to simulated gravity. However, this experiment still couldn't explain how plants sense gravity. By the late 19th century, it was the Darwins again who conducted the definitive experiment solving this. The Darwins used broad beans, peas, and cucumbers, cutting their root tips to varying degrees to test growth. They found roots lost direction even when just 0.5 millimeters of tip was removed. Only when tips regrew did direction return, showing root tips sense gravity and guide growth. Remarkably, when Darwin immobilized bean seedlings and destroyed tips after 90 minutes, plants still knew how to grow, meaning within those 90 minutes, root tips completed their directional task. The beans had fully transmitted gravity's direction. Plants not only sense gravity through tips, but know exactly where and how to grow. Today, we study plant growth with time-lapse photography, yet Darwin managed to observe growth without this technology. This was thanks to his insomnia. It gave him time for laborious experiments others wouldn't attempt. He mounted a glass plate above a plant, marking its position every few minutes for days, tracing its growth path on the glass. Using this method, he mapped growth patterns of over 300 plant species. Ultimately, he discovered all plants perform repetitive spiral swaying. The movement involves shoot tips constantly tracing circles or ellipses while spiraling upward. He named this motion circumnutation. This circumnutation makes each plant resemble a dancer, positioning every growth direction perfectly. In other words, this repetitive motion proves that plants actually know exactly how much they've grown and where the next direction of growth is. In Darwin's view, plants have an internal driving force that compels them to perform this circumnutation. However, this time, Darwin had opponents. 80 years later, some proposed a different view, suggesting that plant growth movements are influenced by gravity, not from the plants themselves. So, is the circumnutation movement derived from the plant's own driving force, or is it a judgment made after sensing gravity? And this debate remained unresolved until the International Space Station began operations, allowing humans to conduct experiments in weightless environments, finally providing an answer. In 2007, scientists grew Arabidopsis thaliana on the space station and found that under near weightless conditions, the plant still exhibited spiral motion, confirming Darwin's hypothesis. Plants can rely on root tips to sense gravity, and at the same time, they always know clearly where to grow. Therefore, we can confirm that plants possess proprioception. Finally, let's discuss plant memory. Human memory has many forms, including short-term memory, long-term memory, sensory memory, muscle memory, etc. The commonality among all forms of memory is that they involve 3 steps: formation, storage, and retrieval. For plants, they also have memory. For example, in a Venus flytrap, if no second hair is touched within 20 seconds after the first one is touched, it won't close its leaves. These 20 seconds represent the Venus flytrap's short-term memory. And there are plants like winter wheat, planted by farmers in autumn. If they experience a cold winter, they will sprout in spring. In the past, if winter wheat experienced a warm winter, it wouldn't flower or bear fruit, leading to famine. And later, Soviet scientist Lysenko discovered that placing winter wheat seeds in a refrigerator could ensure the next year's harvest, naming this process vernalization. This essentially gives the plant a memory, allowing winter wheat to remember that it has experienced a cold winter. The plant's memory can even be inherited after experiencing a cold winter. When plants are exposed to stressors like UV radiation or pathogen invasion, new DNA combinations are produced, and these are passed to offspring even if they haven't experienced the stress themselves, but their DNA has indeed changed. To put it another way, a plant develops a memory of stress, stores that memory, and then passes it on to its offspring. Doesn't that sound remarkably similar to human memory, with its 3 steps: formation, storage, and retrieval? It turns out that plants, quietly living beside us all along, share such similar physiological traits with us. The author says that if some unforeseen events hadn't occurred in ancient times, perhaps humans themselves would be the ones climbing on walls. However, at the end of the book, Daniel repeatedly emphasizes that plants are brainless. Even though they can see, smell, have touch, and memory, they don't feel pain. Therefore, there's still a qualitative difference in sensory experiences between plants and humans. After listening to today's book, if you encounter a plant again, take some time to think about what it has seen and smelled. Every plant you gaze at with affection is also gazing back at you. Well, that concludes our interpretation of what a plant knows. Big notes are below the audio. We'll see you tomorrow.